life will throw you in different directions, and you just have to look for the positive side of where you are at that point of your life and try and move forwards. And if that means in different directions, it means going and volunteering or getting a job doing something else or fitting in, whatever it takes, that's what you have to do. We're going to put it on later this year, so I'm doing that. And then I did do a film last year, a feature film on my own, with my own money. So that was, I've been put that into festivals. So that's won like 14 awards. It's on Amazon Prime at the moment.
Jack, welcome to the World XP Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm very good, very good.
Awesome. Do you want to do a quick intro for the people, who you are and what you do and what you've been up to for the last, well, however long, and then we'll hop into the question from the last guest and we'll get right into it.
Yeah, sure. So I'm from London, as you may have worked out, although originally Bristol, which is on the west coast. And I've been here about 25 years, working as a producer in film and TV. But I'm here to talk about books I've written over the last couple of years. One of them's called 944 Hidalgo, which is a sci-fi book. And then there's another one called Jove, which is a murder mystery detective spy story. And both of them I wrote over COVID, so, 5 years ago. And they've kind of sat around. I sent them out initially and didn't get much success with them. So I kind of revisited them a couple of years ago and rewrote both of them, and then sent them to Collective Ink, and they published both of them. So one came out last year, and Jove is about to come out on the 30th of June.
Very nice, very nice. So, question from the last guest. I think maybe it will have, I don't know if it will have impacted your writing, but maybe. So what's the thing that you worry about most when you put your head on the pillow at night?
Nothing to do with writing. We're trying to buy a flat at the moment. That's what I'm worrying about. London prices are crazy, and it takes forever to close on these things. So I'm sure it's the same everywhere.
Yeah.
But work has been difficult. The world's changing. So the business I'm in is kind of corporate commercial film. It's really taken a knock, and I'm actually working with some producers and people in LA at the moment and New York, and they're both saying the same thing as we're saying here. It's slowed down for the business and Hollywood, right across the board in our field. So it's tricky for a lot of people that have been doing this for 20 years or more. So yeah, everyone's kind of looking around what else to do, and some of this work of rewriting is because I've had downtime, and I think a lot of people are doing the same. They're kind of finding other things to do, whatever that is, whether it's making money in different ways or doing what they really want to do, or writing is a profession, but it's also for many people a hobby. You don't make much money out of it, so you sort of do it because you want to. You have something to say, I guess. You want to tell a great story. I mean, that's the basis of it.
For the industry that you're in, how it's been changing, like obviously the rise of YouTube and things like that have made it possible for somebody like me to do what I do, right? I don't have a studio or producers or any of these things. I've got a Zoom call and a few kind of very mediocre editing tricks up my sleeve and whatever else. And so we've seen, I think in some ways it's been really good because a lot of people like you mentioned with writing can get their stuff out there. But at the same time, the whole industry starts to shift and we've seen kind of these independent studios pop up, right? In the US, there's like podcast studios that just exist. Like you can rent them out and they have producers that are part of the studio. And it's like something that 20 years ago you never would have thought that you would have been able to make any sort of show or film or whatever without money and backing and this and that. So how have you seen that kind of change in real time with your work, but also kind of the big industry as a whole?
Well, the hands-on democratic movement. I'm all for it. Obviously, it's great if you can. It's a bit like when people had to make films on film and then video came along, and you got the chance to get your hands on a camera in an easier way. But so yeah, things like podcasts and stuff. But I think the main movement has been people don't watch TV. You know, they watch content on
Mm-hmm.
platforms, on YouTube or on. I mean, people scroll. That's what they do. So, and a lot of advertising has gone on to social media, and that advertising is quick. It's only lasts a day, and then you have to post something the next day, and so you don't need a high quality there because it's just gone. It's ephemeral. So it means the kind of corporate work that I've been doing is less in demand, and people want stuff that's easy to churn over quickly and get out. So it means that the quality is bad. Anyone can make it. It becomes more democratic, but the people have been making sort of things that work uh, on a slightly longer scale with real people interviewing them, on camera um, with fantastic professionals. That work's sort of going a bit. So it's what people are doing is using AI, using other tools, finding, and of course, AI. People have spent, squillions of dollars on producing AI, are also trying to promote it. So they're trying to push it towards that way. They're trying to push what people watch to help AI become integrated with it because they need their money back.
Yeah.
So the companies I've worked with and the clients, they're talking about AI all the time. I did some work for Ernst and Young last year, and they were saying, yeah, they were scared about AI, but they were promoting AI as a
Yeah.
as a tool. So yeah, I mean, you could get AI voiceovers. You may be AI replaced in a
Yeah.
few years' time.
Maybe, maybe, maybe
There'll
one
just be a
day.
hat,
Just a hat. Yeah. No, exactly.
a talking hat, and they'll be asking the questions. Who knows? But yeah, that's what's happened. And reality shows are not so popular because you've got reality on your phone. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then there was the strikes in the US, which could put things back, and people got delayed, and things weren't commissioned. So it's been a whole host of lots of different things coming at once, and it's a shame, really. But it will it will be in the hands of YouTubers,
Yeah.
basically.
I wanna ask this as well because from somebody who's been in the industry, seeing like I think part of it as well is people are a bit tired of everything being so polished and like curated and these sorts of things. And so the kind of the authenticity of some guy just making a video like on the street somewhere or whatever. Like and that's kind of a broader point about at least in the US, so some of the institutions
Mhm.
that people no longer trust as much, like the news, people don't trust that as much. Um,
Mm,
and things like that. And I wonder what your thoughts are on that as a whole, because I think when people now see like a commercial like would 15, 20 years ago, like a Super Bowl commercial, great.
yeah.
And now people are just like, nah, commercials, I don't care. Like they would rather see somebody that they have grown to trust, whether that trust is real or not. Um,
Well, I think it's in a world of
yeah,
mistrust where there's
yeah.
lies coming left, right, and center
A
every day.
hundred percent. But I think people associate the curated like um
With that
commercial
world,
side with
yeah,
that. Yeah.
it's funny because the people who make that kind of content are normally as far from uh, that lies that get spewed out politically as could be possible. Why they get lumped in, I don't know. But people are looking for authenticity. They don't know who to trust. It's a confusing world of where truth isn't to be trusted. You know,
Hmm.
each day is a new truth that's in complete dichotomy with the day before. So they rub against each other, and you say, well, I thought that was the truth. Oh, this is the truth, and you know that kind of populist politics, which we've got in this country as well, is based upon kind of playing with people's heads, and lying, stating stuff that's just not true, in order to become powerful, to promote themselves. And I think I can see why people will be attracted towards something which is sort of in their hand. It feels more familiar and close to them.
Hmm. I think also they feel that there's a they don't feel that there's so many layers between themselves and that individual, right? They feel like, especially you get to some of these podcasts or these like independent news type shows where they know that that individual is doing the research or doing the editing or doing whatever themselves. They feel like there's more authenticity there, and I mean, obviously it depends on who the person is, but like
Yeah.
if I get something wrong, I'm gonna come on the show the next thing and say, "Hey, I said this thing and it was wrong." And like people, that's something that I think, I mean, personally speaking, it's like, okay, this person has some level of integrity. Um, and to kind of jump into the next piece, which we talked before about, but people in the US kind of, I think, have a skewed view of what's going on politically in the UK. Like I'll see stuff all the time about people in the UK getting arrested for Facebook posts or immigration problems or whatever and this and that. And my gut tells me, and as we talked on the phone before, my gut tells me
Yeah.
that there's probably some truth to that, but also it's not as bad as everyone is saying. So, and like, because Piers Morgan will come on and be like, "Oh, none of that is actually true."
Well,
So,
but it's not. I mean, it's hard to know what you know, if you know what I
yeah.
mean. It's hard to know
Well, I
what's.
guess just from your perspective, what's the situation, right? Because at least for me, like the last thing that I remember like really tracking was that Boris Johnson was basically like knock off Trump and nobody liked him and now he's gone.
That's a long
And
time ago.
yeah, it
A
was a
lot has
long time
happened.
ago. It was like Brexit and him and then I'm like, okay, well, I've stopped paying attention because
I
there's so
think
many things that are going on in the US as well.
well,
So,
yeah, you've got enough on your back,
yeah.
to carry. No, I think you were saying on the phone, look, we in the US hear that immigration is terrible, and you're swamped with immigrants and all this kind of stuff, and that's just bollocks, frankly. It's immigration in this country has gone down, net immigration over the last couple of years, and small boats, people crossing on small boats, it's about 40,000 a year, which is about the same as Italy, Spain. In terms of boats, France has a different thing. People arrive by plane. Germany, people come into the country in different ways. But that's 40,000 people. The actual migration, people coming into the country last year was 800,000,
Mm,
and the number of people leaving is 650,000, somewhere like that. It's those kind of figures. So, and that net migration between those two figures has gone down by 150,000 the last 2
yeah.
years, because they brought in different rules. So most of the people coming to this country here on working visas, or they're here to study. You know, the people that are crossing by boats are refugees
Yeah.
coming from Iran, Afghanistan, Syria. You may recognize those places as places we bombed. Um,
Yeah, it's funny how that
yeah,
works. And people say, "Oh, there's an
it's strange how
immigration
that
problem." It's
happens.
like, yeah, well,
But yeah,
maybe we shouldn't have bombed it.
they're coming from these countries and they're claiming refugee status. That's the immigration problem. I mean, people were coming and studying here and then bringing their families. They kind of closed that loophole. But if you're talking about whether the country is at war with itself because of immigration, no, I don't think it is. And yeah, sure, it's not. We don't want people dying in the channel, and also, people can become isolated in small towns in the coast, or you know, Clacton on Sea, where Nigel Farage has got his constituency. He's the leader of the Reform Party, the far right party. Or the right wing party, put it that way. Clacton on Sea is predominantly has been for hundreds of years of white working class area, and there has been a lot of immigrants have ended up living there. So yes, there is a tension between those people, and but it's if you live in London with 9 million people, um, and 40 to 50% people are originally from another country, that could be every country in the world, and you
Yeah.
end up getting along because you have to. We're not divided in London in that way. There isn't little section of the town necessarily. They're all one kind of background or race or heritage. So if you take the whole country, I think the immigration or people who came from a different country to begin with is about 12%. So it's not like we're overrun.
Yeah.
It's I think there's been a whipping up of um, that problem, that supposed problem, by people who use it to create fear, because they want to lead a right wing party. I mean, this is not a new thing. This has
Yeah.
been done before, in Germany in the 1930s and 40s, and in Hungary and in places all around the world, in order to it's just a greed and power thing for me. Of course, there's problems. There's problems everywhere with people trying to get along, but you can't paint all people from another country as bad. It just doesn't work like that.
No, 100%,
It's
100%.
evidently untrue.
Yeah, and that's the thing with you treat everybody as an individual, and that's kind of how they are. Last kind of question on this before we get
Yeah,
ourselves, well, before I get myself in trouble. But anyways,
yeah.
um,
Don't get me in trouble.
yeah, you're good. Um, how do you guys, well, I guess how do you view from across the pond what's going on in the States?
One day, all this will be over.
That's a good
in
answer.
in another 10 years, people will naturally not be around.
Hmm.
There's a lot of older people in countries around the world that are causing a lot of mayhem.
Hmm.
And, we're going to have to wait it out because at the moment they hold all the power and they're causing a lot of pain. That's my view anyway. I mean, I'm politically somewhere in the middle, probably social democrat more. But
Hmm.
so, I understand other people's point of views, but there are dictators around the world that the world would be better without, frankly. So, particularly the US, I think it's a strange time. I don't, we do follow what's going on in the US, obviously, because it affects us greatly.
Hmm.
We're kind of, you know, the ripples of it um, come here, but yeah, you're going to have to wait a few years and see what happens and see if you can come together. There's a lot of division, that's for sure. I mean, I've spent quite a lot of time in the US filming stuff. I filmed in California and the East Coast as well, and up in Canada and stuff. And yeah, I know what it's like. You go to a bar and you sit between two people, and they can be from both ends of the political spectrum. This happened to me in Santa Rosa in California. I went into a bar. I was filming there for Sonoma Tourist Board, and there was a guy, two engineers. One was an optical engineer. I don't know what that means really, but she was a lovely guy, and the other guy was an engineer who worked for Tesla. You know, nice guy. Both of them nice guys, but this guy from Tesla, at some point started talking about immigrants, and he was like, the thing is, immigrants don't care for their family. And I was like, I said, do you think they're Americans, like born Americans that don't care about their family? And he said, hmm. I said, well, you know what I'm trying to say? We're all the same, you know?
Hmm. Yeah.
And probably the guy who's tried to get here cares a lot about his family, I would say, because that's why he's doing it. We
Yeah.
all care about our family. That's the base level. You may be evil, you may be whatever, but everyone cares about their family. And finding the similarities is hard, but it's totally necessary in order that we can live in a stable and prosperous world. I think.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Fair enough. Yeah, I ask almost every time I have somebody from a different country on the show, I try and ask just because, like, we're in our bubble, and for people like me that are probably a bit too psycho and paying attention way too much for their own sanity, it's good to get other sort of opinions. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things and strange things that are going on for sure. A lot of people are very annoyed, to say the least. So,
Yeah, I mean,
um,
you could go into it more, but I think it's good to have a balance. Eric, can I ask you a question?
yeah,
Because I've just suddenly realised my battery's running down. Could I go and get a lead and plug it in?
yeah,
Well,
100%, 100%.
yeah,
We'll pause the recording. We'll be back. All right, we'll be back in a second.
okay.
All right, and we're back.
Thanks.
Okay,
Sorry.
perfect. Action.
Didn't realise.
Um, but yeah, so I want to get into kind of your story from how you got into kind of corporate film and what exactly that means, because I think a lot of people
Oh,
listening.
okay, yeah. It's
Um,
making films a business. It's like
yeah.
it's like an advert, but more of a longer form.
Okay.
You.
So how did you get into it? Like, where was the interest when you were growing up, or like
Well, I went
where?
to film school. I make independent films as well. That's just my bread and butter is making these things, producing them. But I started with like a video camera at school, high school.
Hmm.
There was one somebody had won a TV game show, and the prize was a video camera. And it was just sitting there in the corner. Had done for years. And one of the teachers started a kind of after school camera, filmmaking thing, and I just did that. So, I made a few short films, and then I went to film school, which is in Bournemouth. It's a good film. It's a strange place. It's a seaside town, but they've got a great film school there.
So
And
what?
then,
Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
okay, no, no, jump in, jump in.
Well, I was just gonna ask, like, where in terms of when, as you're growing up and you're deciding, like, yeah, I like making films. Like, what about it spoke to you? Like, rather than
Oh, I see.
there's so many things that you can do in the world, but like people, and there's often
Oh, I
people who are
just
kind of in the creatives who are they're like maybe drawing or painting or writing or whatever is the like. What
I
about
got
film?
into photography. My great uncle during the war used to be a projectionist at the cinema, Second World War, and so great uncles, so my dad's uncle, and he was also into photography and Super 8 cameras and all that kind of stuff. So he gave me a larger. I think I bought my own camera. Yeah, I did, and I learned how to process my own film and print pictures and all that kind of stuff in the bathroom, so my dark room, with people knocking on the door, when are you going out? And yeah, I mean, I'm not from a rich background. I'm lower middle class. I don't know whether that means working class. So we're a small house and stuff. And I just got into that. And I did that a bit in school, and then I did that course, and then I just thought, oh no, this is kind of fun. You're kind of creating another reality, That's what's fun about it. You're creating a story. You're
Yeah.
storytelling. It's in still pictures, whether it's in moving pictures or in novels or writing. I mean, I was kind of writing then a bit as well. Um, so I just kind of followed that path, and I thought, oh, let's try. And I did another course after that school. I went and did a few different courses in filmmaking, and a media course, and I just found it interesting, found it fascinating.
One of the things that
Um,
I love to ask about that is like how you go about making the like you mentioned at the beginning of this, people who are writing or whatever often struggle to make ends meet, right? It's
yeah,
dependent on publishers or work or if the work slows down or whatever. So like how when you get into this and other people who kind of go into this sort of thing also have their parents or friends being like, she'll never make any money doing that. You should get a real job or this and that. But like
um,
what's the career path like or what advice do you have for people that are maybe in like maybe
well,
wanting to pursue
don't
or
listen to that. Don't
well
listen to people going, it's not a
that's
real job unless you make money.
yeah, fair
It's
enough.
rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. People do things all the time without making money out. And who cares if you make money out of them or not? That's not where you do them.
Yeah,
The most creative stuff. In fact, the more creative it is, the less money you make. It's in a way. I think you just have to stick to it. I mean, I haven't done that throughout. I haven't had 30 years of constant work. You do other jobs. I've driven trucks. I've worked in video stores. When they were video stores for years. I've kind of worked in bookshops and museums. Over COVID, I was working in a museum. I worked at theatres. I've worked all sorts. I've worked all sorts of different jobs within the industry. Like I've been a location assistant, a location manager, first AD. I was an editor. I've done everything. And they may not work your way up necessarily, but yeah, you can sort of get a little bit higher that way, or you just do things parallel, or as long as you've got your hand in the game somewhere, at least you feel as though you're kind of doing stuff, and getting somewhere. So you just have to kind of busk it, and try and make a living out of it the best you can. Um, the first job I got was editing corporate videos. Corporate videos are like, I don't know, a video for a factory that makes airplane parts, and you go and interview a few people, and put together a video, a film selling that company, maybe, you know. So it's that kind of thing. It's sort of commercial sort of style. I mean, quite low end, you know, but you put as much as you can into it, and I think that's the key, really. You just do like the best job you can possibly do, whatever it is you're doing, like
Mm.
100%. You have to really put, even if like other people might look at that work and be like, oh, no, you know, it's spit. I'm not going to work hard, you know. You have to work really, really hard on everything. I believe in everything you do. Like just put everything into it because you'll get more out of it and you'll get more work. You
Mm.
know, become the best at that, and it's more enjoyable when you feel like you've really excelled yourself and made sure everything's works on the day. You know, the thing I'm doing at the moment is complicated. It's a lot of CEOs and high profile people and lots of layers of management. And, you know, you have to sort of be able to put out fires before they start, you know, and think ahead and speed strategy and work out what's needed and try and make everyone happy. And you're working in a crew and, you know, that side of it. And I enjoy that. You know, it's good. And it's good to work in a team, you know. It's
Yeah.
uh, it's fun. I mean, this can be a bit lonely. I imagine. You know, it's sort of, and I've done it. You know, I've done on my own, and it's not so much fun. When you've got a few people around, you have that two-way thing. You know, and it feels like it's great. Working in crews is a good fun. You know,
I would imagine building relationships to get on the next, whatever the next project is, right? You have a good relationship with somebody and they're like, "Oh, I know a good
yeah,
editor and
a
that's my
lot,
guy." And
a lot
like,
of that.
yeah,
Yeah,
talk to that part within that industry because I think because for me, like I work in a much more structured environment than that. So, but also in the football world, it's very similar where it's like,
yeah,
"Oh, I'm going to coach a new team. I'm bringing my assistant
yeah,
coach
yeah.
with
I'll
me or
take the
whatever."
guys with
So,
me.
I'm exactly.
Well,
So I'm familiar with that, but talk to that part.
yeah. I mean, there's good and bad with that, obviously, because okay, the bad side is it doesn't help with diversity because it becomes the same select people and they're, you know, but on the good side, it means if you've worked with this person before, you can trust them, they're not going to mess it up, and you want to hire them again. And a lot of the industry works like that because you're in a very trust position, you know, because if they mess up, then you lose your job as well, and you don't get hired by that company again. You know, so you kind of want the guy there or the woman there who's gonna do the right thing. So that's why it works the way it works. When you're outside the freelancing, like I've done staff jobs and go back into it, it's really hard because all those contacts have gone. You know, if you haven't done it for 2 years, they're like, "Who are you?" Because everyone's moved on. So it can be really tricky, and that's what's happening at the moment. That people are kind of coming out of long-term, jobs, and then there's no work because they don't have any connections anymore. That's the problem. So yeah, I mean it's good and bad, but that's how it works. You have to kind of accept it, and rather than kind of rail against it and be like, "Oh, it's not fair," you just got
Yeah.
to figure your way through it. And I'm afraid it's word of mouth, a lot of it. But you know, a lot of jobs actually are kind of like that.
Yeah. Can you talk about how you're navigating that currently? Like,
Currently,
yeah,
I'm just kicking
or maybe in
on.
or
Just
maybe or maybe in previous instances as well. Because people will also say like, oh yeah, it's word of mouth and you gotta have a connection or whatever. But there's also something to building and maintaining a relationship that allows that final step
yeah,
of like, oh, I know this guy to actually happen. So can you talk to that sort of piece as
yeah.
well?
I mean, I think it's kind of doing other stuff, getting out there, keep in contact with people, go back to them every month and say, hey, still here, When I've got a lot of those at the moment. A lot of people are kind of talking to, and they're like, hey, the next job that comes out, we'll try and pull you in on it. So you just have to keep plugging away, and hope. And yeah, there's been other times, other periods where, it's been really difficult to get work. And I've taken other jobs, but it's led to other avenues and paths. So a perfect example, just before COVID, I didn't have any work for ages. A couple of things have gone down because of COVID. I was doing a long, like 3-month project for KSA, Saudi, and that didn't work, and blah blah blah. And I, I got a job. I think at the start of COVID, I was working in theatre, and I, for a few weeks, and then COVID came. We all got shut down, and but they were paying me each month to, they did that over here, if you had a full time job. So we got 6 months, and that kind of led me into doing some writing, and because I didn't have work, and then I went and did the Saudi thing, and then that ended, and I ended up writing Jove, because I decided to write it really quickly. I gave myself a month, and I wrote 2,500 words a day. And at the end of the month, I had a book, and I put it aside, and then went back to it 10 days later, I think, and then wrote for a week, and it was pretty much finished. I know I rewrote it. I told you, but it life will throw you in different directions, and you just have to look for the positive side of where you are at that point of your life, and try and move forwards. And if that means in different directions, if it means going and volunteering or getting a job doing something else or fitting in, whatever it takes, that's what you have to do. And you just gotta keep on moving forwards, because it's pointless crying about it. It doesn't stop worrying about it. Well, it just doesn't get you anywhere. So yeah, it's tough, but it's always been tough. If you choose a kind of creative life, it's going to be tough. You just have to accept it. And great if you've got family money, great, all that. That's fine. Don't feel guilty about it. Use it. If you've got connections, use them. Absolutely. But if you haven't, then don't moan about it, and get on with it.
Yeah. So you mentioned when we were on the phone, the books that you wrote were kind of, I think, based off scripts that you had written
That's
earlier.
true. Yeah.
So you want to talk about kind of the script writing and that sort of process, and how, I guess, how it works. You've got an idea, you write it down, and you pitch it to whoever. Like, how does that process work?
Well, that's probably even harder, because there are people out there going, "Hey, give me a script. I've got $1 million." That came around through various different means. I had a writer. I've met a friend who was a writer and actually a poet, still is, Murray Lacken Young. He had been hired to write a script through a director. These. I mean, I met him. I was working in a video store. I met this guy. There's that kind of loose connection. And he said, "I've got this idea for a film," and I said, "Yeah." I read it, and I looked at it. I was like, "Could be better." And I had been writing for myself anyway, my own scripts. I've been making these short films and blah 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 blah. And he said, "Well, there's some money," and I was like, "Great, let's do it." And we did a few of those, co-wrote them, and then I did actually pitch for some funding for something called Creative England, which is actually gone now, but it was some internal UK funding, and got some, not much. So I wrote a script on the basis of that. Yeah, it's very hard to just take a script out and find somebody. There's not anyone there who's got the money for development, really. There's very few people, unless they're from studios. You can put them into various different sort of, well, here we've got one film fund, BFI, but that's really tricky. There's so many people going for it, and you have to tick so many boxes. It's hard. So again, you need to couple with a producer and sort of work on trying to get it in front of somebody who's going to exec produce it, who's got some money to develop it, or at least get it to a position where somebody might become interested in it, or you might be able to raise money on the back of attaching an actor, or it's a very structured business, and there isn't a kind of route around it. A lot of people will be like, "Yeah, well, look at that one film out of a million that somebody came up with the idea, shot it up for very cheaply, and made $1 million." And every producer would love that to happen to them, but it just doesn't work like that. And in a lot of ways, things are structured because people want to keep those positions of power because they're afraid of losing their house. So that's why it's there. And it suits them quite well, and there's a lot of, of course there's greed and power involved, but it's just the kind of filter to, otherwise you'd just be swamped. So yeah, you have to play the game to a certain extent, or just go and make your own thing. And what happened was when I'd finished that doing all those scripts for years, I ended up with a whole lot of scripts and no film, because none of them got made. So I was like, what am I going to do? I thought at some point, look, why don't I just take this script and kind of put them together and these short stories. And I've got this idea anyway for tying them together and this other character and they all kind of came together. And that's how I wrote the first book off the basis of that. So I actually wrote it pretty quickly because I had at least a couple of the stories already there. And it has multiple stories going through it. It's about somebody on a mining ship, mining an asteroid. The asteroid breaks in half. There's a real asteroid called 944 Hidalgo, and half of it plummets to Earth. And then this woman's boyfriend is on Earth, and she's sort of communicating back. And then there's a couple of people. This is set in the future. So an alien woman and this guy she meets who's got fire for hands because it's set in the future. Things are different. And a guy who's picking up. He's kind of a delivery man, but he ends up picking up this young boy, a group of them who are crossing in small boats, but they're aliens. So he picks them up in Dover. So it's about migration, and it's about. So he drops his boy off, and then he's really unsure about where the boy's destination. So he goes back and finds him, and the boy's got a story all of his own. And they all head towards where this asteroid is going to land, and they try and save the Earth. There's androids who fall in love in it. There's all sorts of different things. There's past and future stuff going on. It's kind of crazy. So that's where I kind of, and those original scripts, by the way, weren't sci-fi. They were just straight scripts. So present day stuff. So yeah, I just used what I had. And I think that's what happens often is that when you write, you're like, it's okay. But you put it aside and you kind of circle around to it again. And you can use it in a different form. That happens quite a lot. You find you've got something there that connects. Often the great script of stories are two things that come together, two ideas somehow, and they kind of interlace with each other. Maybe it's the beginning and the first half and the second half. I don't know, but that's what often makes a good story. You kind of that layer of two things going on, and then you just get into it, and when you write and things are going good and the characters are talking to you and all that stuff people talk about, which happens, then it's fun. Yeah. When you're torturing over the first 20,000 words and it's not coming and it's difficult. And, the last book I wrote, Alphabet Spies, which is actually a sequel to Jove, that, the first 6 months or more, it was torture. I couldn't get it. I had all these ideas. So it took me like 8 months to write the first 30,000 words. And 2 of those months, I just put it aside. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, And then I got the idea. And then I realized what was going on. And I went back to it. I wrote the rest in a month. It was really quick because I knew where I was going. And strangely, I knew I got to the end, I thought I need more words. And then kind of went back and thought, this is a place to put another chapter. And then everything kind of fitted in, and it was always supposed to be there. It's weird. It's like the thing's already written and you're just kind of jostling it down somehow. I don't know what that's about. But,
Do you have these sort of ideas? Like, so when you come up with the premise for the whole story, but then as you go into kind of more the detail parts or like this kind of side plot or this character's kind of on other journey or whatever, like how is that? Like you'll just be walking or like you'll be in the grocery store and then all of a sudden you think of something and you're like, oh, let me jot that down real quick, or like
yeah, all the time. If I'm in the middle of something, I'm often on my phone, notes, just kind of write it down quickly so I don't forget it. And then I'll go through all those notes. Like if I'm actually writing something, I'll go through all those notes and look back at all of them before I write the next chapter. And then I might write a chapter in one go and then spend a few days thinking and then write the next bit and thinking. It's the thinking time that takes the time because you're just trying to figure out, because you can't figure out the whole thing. It would be impossible. Maybe people do, but I just kind of begin knowing that there's a general kind of, I want it eventually to end up somewhere there. So I just write off the seat of my pants, actually, and make the story out. And Stephen King does this. New York County does this. A lot of people do it. But things develop. Then I'm surprised by how it's going. I'm like, hey, this is kind of cool. I'm enjoying this. I didn't really, that happened. Wow. Um, so that's fun, and you kind of, I mean, I just sort of generally, there's an asteroid falling. It's going to hit the ground, you know. There's a guy searching for the killer of his daughter. He's going to find something at the end. There's a killing at the beginning of every detective novel, and by the end, the detective solves it. It's a whodunit. In fact, most stories are often whodunits. It's you know it's that kind of thing. Spy stories are whodunits. James Bond. Is who's this mysterious Goldfinger? And he's figuring out a plot, and eventually he kills the guy. That's it's a very simple story. He's on a mission. Um, and the stories I write, I like those kind of stories. I like fast-paced, moving thrillers. That's just the thing I'm into,
Yeah,
and I
I
do
mean,
those.
they're fun.
Yeah, no, why not?
And they're especially fun if you surprise yourself as you're writing. So
Yeah,
that's gotta be that's gotta be I could imagine you just coming up with some idea and be like, oh, that would be really cool to put that in there. I mean, and then you have the total creative freedom to do it because it's yours. You could do whatever you want.
yeah. Twists are the most fun. If you can think up a twist, this latest one I wrote, it's got so many twists in it, probably too many. And yeah, but it's
I'll let
so
you know
exciting
after
to
I'll
do.
let you
Like
know after I
you're
read it.
using the audience, and then suddenly you're like, wow, really? Or a clue that a series of clues that add up, and you're like, and then you're ahead of it, but you're not. Is that what? Did I guess that? And then you give that's what it is, and you're like, yes, of course. Well, I hope people
Yeah.
do that, but that's the fun bit. That's just so much fun.
Is that
Uh,
the most rewarding part of writing for you? Yeah.
yeah, I think so. And then, or like having like this, I told you that chapter I put in. It was needed, and it was in Majorca. I put it in one of the characters. It's about a lot of sleeping agents, spies who are dotted around Europe. And one of the heroes track down male and female heroes track down where this one of these guys has been hiding out, and but when they get there, he's no more, and a priest has been hiding him, and the priest tells his story, which is about coming from Sudan. I don't know if you know much about Sudan, but they had a civil war there 20
Hmm.
years ago,
Yeah, yeah.
and the Sudanese boys were like a whole bunch. He was one of
Yeah.
them.
The
Whole bunch.
US was also helpful in that too.
What's that?
The US was also helpful in that
Yeah,
too.
they were very helpful in that in in that, and colonialism was very helpful as well in setting it up to begin with. The British were there. Yeah, we're all to blame, really. Anyway, so I got to tell that story a little bit, after doing quite a lot of research on it. The boys as young as 8 were co-opted into the army from the north to fight and kill South. Anyway, that is interesting, because you get to research things and get to find out about things and tell that story. That's rewarding as well. Gotta
Mm.
say.
What are some of the craziest things that you've learned or and slash or most rewarding things? Like as you've gone through your career, I'm sure you've had very rewarding and crazy experiences. What are some of the most like I'll say rewarding or coolest things that you've learned, or both, if it's the same one?
Well, I spent 2 years as creative director for a company in the UK, in London. Uh, that finished like 24, so yeah, a couple of years ago. And it was all about sustainability, climate change. That was really interesting. So I did a whole series of films about aviation, people in aviation companies who are trying to do the best to move us onto um, uh, zero free fuel, and I did a whole thing about farming. I did one about tourism, all sorts of different things. So what was interesting was meeting people who were in the field, as you might say, like a tomato farmer in in Spain in kind of 50-degree heat over there, and doing the interview in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. And just kind of a lot of nodding and getting a translation. He was just saying, we've seen drought here, pest increase. There's visible signs of what's going on. And FMC, the company I was doing it for, who are an American company, make huge. They make fertilizers, the biggest. They were sort of supporting this guy by providing equipment that would track pest disease, and they had like a feed. You could look at a satellite picture of his farm and see his all the plants in his farm and which ones were dying and which ones needed water, and he could water his whole field on his phone, each individual plant, so they didn't waste water.
That's pretty
They,
cool.
from Madrid, he was saying, in the middle of nowhere. Um, so technology, ag tech, they call it. I delivered 16 films about ag tech, mostly about ag tech, and farms and farming, and that's what's going to help in the future, technology, because it's the only thing. I did a couple of films actually on supplements given to cows, dairy cows and beef cows, to stop them burping, because methane is it stays around a lot longer than CO2 in the atmosphere, and it's contributing to heating up the world. So cows produce methane, both ends, but it mostly comes out their mouths.
Yeah.
And they feed cows these tablets. Some of them are made by garlic and lemon. The ones in Australia are made but from seaweed, and it decreases. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it decreases the amount of methane. If it was done worldwide, we'd see an immediate reduction in methane levels, because methane stays in the atmosphere much, much longer. It's got a much longer life. So there's people doing these things out there to try and mitigate climate change. And then there's people protecting animals. So I went to California, went to Laguna Beach, and they have a no fish policy there. And no, you can't take anything off the shores. You can't leave litter. And I was making two films actually about that, exactly about that, and interviewing people. So I interviewed somebody from the Ocean Foundation that protects the sea. I interviewed a skimboarder, a championship skimboarder. She was fantastic. So we had 3 cameras, a drone, long lens, somebody in the water in a wetsuit, and these guys were all out of Dana Point, so a crew there, and we filmed her doing her skimboarding. And I met a woman who had been mayor of Laguna Beach, but previously she was on a protest to try and save Laguna Canyon. They were going to redevelop it, and she told this great story about going out. This was in the early 90s, going out, and they were bulldozing down these trees, and she chained herself to the bulldozer, and they took her off to jail, and she's like in her, I don't know how old she is now, but so she was an activist, and she did some good, and they stopped it. They actually then went and formed a collective and bought out the canyon themselves.
Oh wow, that's
Raised
cool.
money, and it's there. You can go in there, and there's no businesses. They were going to build a golf course and a high-rise apartment, and it's still natural, beautiful hills. So and the great thing about that, we'd organized a whale trip off of Dana Point, and we went out, and I'd got 2 cameras. So there's 3 cameramen, 2 cameras with cameras on strings, and there was a drone guy, and I tried to do this up in British Columbia, but we weren't allowed, because I went whale washing up there as well. So the guy on the drone, what we did was, as soon as we saw the whale, and we saw a fin whale, and the second largest whale in the world. So this is about 6 feet long fin whale. It's big.
That's huge,
and,
yeah.
And once I saw it first, once we saw it, I was just about to go, there she blows. And I thought, no, I can't do that. It's like, we're not killing it. Anyway, I was like, it's over there. The boat went towards it, and then we got the drone up, and we could see directly down on it. And it's very clear water in California. So the problem with filming whales is they disappear. they do that, and then they go down, and then you don't know where they're coming up. They could be 2 miles away, right? So my idea was that we see the whale, we've got the drone doing that. The whale goes down, but we can still see it under the water. There's clear water. So then we follow with the drone, the whale, and then we follow the drone. And that's what we did. So every time it came up, we were there to film it, because we knew where it was. So we just followed it all the way around, saw it underwater, beautiful shots, and then saw it come up, go down. And then we did that. We were all like, yay. And the boat master, whoever, she said, "Oh, there's do you want to see a megapod of dolphins?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." Do you want the whale or the dolphins? I was like, just do the dolphins. We've done the whale. So when there was on the surface there was 300 whales, sorry, dolphins, which meant that was a third of the dolphins. So there was between 900 and 1,000 dolphins in the water,
Ooh.
and we could see 300 of them just jumping next to the boat. It was incredible. I mean, I've never seen anything like that in my life. It was unbelievable. So yeah, that was amazing. The other whale stuff in Victoria. I don't know if you've been up to Victoria or anywhere around
Mm-mm.
there. It's beautiful. I mean, it's gorgeous. Vancouver Island is incredible. I mean, it's not far from Seattle. Um, we went whale watching there, and I helped arrange one of the whale watching boats to go at a certain time, which was sunset. I wanted to get stuff at sunset, and we found orcas, killer whales, predating. So they were chasing the sea lion, eating it, and throwing it up, and
Whoa.
catching it. It was incredible, but it was two females and three children in a pod, and we could hear them. Put a microphone down, or Sam, and we could hear them talking to each other. And then we sort of drifted around, and they displayed for us. They did breaches, tail lobs, as the sun was going down. It's actually in the States, Orca Island, San Andreas Island. So we'd crossed over the border at that point, and that was incredible. That was just one of those moments, you know, beautiful sunset and huge killer whales doing their thing, beautiful. So yeah, I got really lucky that year. It's kind of it was a lot
That
of
sounds
fun.
like some amazing shots for sure. I
Yeah,
I think do we well, before I forget, do you want to talk any more about the books or
no, it's fine. If people
okay.
want to go and see them, they can have a look what they're like. If they go to jackdaviesauthor.com, so that's Jack Davies, Davies, and then author.com, it's got the three books on there with a little
Okay.
blurb. Now,
Okay,
that one,
perfect, perfect.
I like that, I don't. And then there's some links, and they're on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all those places. People want to buy them, go for it. Love.
Perfect, perfect. So if all goes like let's say you have a magic wand and everything goes perfect for you the next like 3 to 5 years or so, like what does that look like for you?
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to get back into staff job, but maybe freelance. So hopefully that'll go through. Do this move as well in a few months. That'll help because rent in London is kind of crazy, and we're buying this place, so it would be a lot better. And then the book comes out. If that can start to get some sales, and then might help with the other previous book. I've just been talking to another writer on with Collective Ink, and we're going to do a launch in London with his book and my book, and do a Q&A between us in a
Oh,
bookshop, a
nice.
couple of bookshops. And so he's just putting that PDF together at the moment, sending that out to organize it. Great guy from Israel. So that was a really interesting conversation. He lives in Tel Aviv. So you can imagine, he was like, it's horrible. It's
Yeah,
like,
I'm sure it's mad over there.
it's horrible. Um, and yeah, I'm just doing some sculpture at the moment. I've just been there. I'll show you one. Do you want to see one?
Yeah, yeah.
I just did one, finished one today. It's just took me 2 sessions. It's like 5 hours. So I've been trying to do these balance things. It's kind of. Do you see that? You
Oh,
see?
that's cool.
Yeah, it's like a mobile, but so that's what I've been welding and cutting and stuff. It's just like a tire. It's like a fairground thing, you know. With a
Yeah,
tire.
yeah.
And this was just something I saw in a book. I just kind of copied it, like a horse, and I just kind of painted these colors on there. So I've been doing sort of stuff like that, and yeah, stuff like geometrical stuff, like this kind of thing as well. You see
Oh,
this kind
that's
of,
really cool.
yeah. So it's fun. You know, I've only been doing it like I don't know, 14 weeks or something, and just learning how to you put these in a forge. You know, you beat them, you shape them, cut them. You know, there's all these machines and ironwork, and a forge there as well, like steel and stuff. It's good. learn how to MIG weld. Um, so I'm also doing an exhibition, a group exhibition with some of the people from this course. This place called, you know, Henry Moore, the sculptor, British sculptor. He helped set up this place. And it's an old missionary hall. There's a pulpit outside. It's a crazy place. It's in Lambeth, on Lambeth Walk, which is South London. And it's like 1860s or something, this building, but it's full of equipment for metal sculpture and normal sculpture. So, yeah, I've been going there doing that. So I've got together a group show. We're going to put it on later this year. So I'm doing that. Um, and then I did do a film last year, a feature film on my own, with my own money. So I've been put that into festivals. So that's won like 14 awards, and it's on Amazon Prime at the moment. You can see it; anyone can see it.
What's it called?
Interview with an Android. It's a kind of present day sci-fi film about.
Okay. I'll
Uh,
put the link in the description for
yeah,
that as
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. Interview with an Android. You can just find it. It's just search it. And so I don't know in the next few years. It's a kind of crazy time, isn't it? I mean, I hope things pick back up with work. Otherwise, it's just do what you can and try and get where you can. I'm sure it'll. I mean, I've got work at the moment, so that's great. So, but everyone's looking for the next job, and the next, and that's kind of okay. It's like the next project,
Hmm.
What do I want to do next with my time? And hopefully life will provide that sort of forward progression.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's been quite fulfilling. You've done a bunch of different things, been traveled all over the world to do, seeing all sorts of cool things. You're doing stuff that you like. You're putting metal into fire and shaping it up and all sorts of things. I can
That's sort of
imagine the first time
fun.
I go into a metalworking shop and I would be scared that I was gonna like burn the whole place down or something.
No, there's a couple of teachers there. They're great, and they're sculptors as well. And they kind of teach you all the tools, how to do MIG welding with this hat and this. There's a there's a furnace there, and they say, they teach you it. And then even when I'm still doing stuff now, they'll come and say, right, this is how to do it. And I'm like, well, how do I, And so they're there constantly, kind of giving you advice. And everyone's very they're on your side. When you're building something, everyone's kind of looking at each other work and going, oh, that's great. And there's loads of people there. They're all from different backgrounds. There's quite a few people who have retired, old guys, and who've spent 30, 40 years doing something else. And now that's all they want to do, make things. Bang. There's a guy, the giant wave, that picture by a Japanese painter, that giant sort of wave. Anyway,
Hmm.
he's making a version of that. And
Oh,
it's
that's cool.
enormous. And he's been doing it for 2 years. He's there every week, and he's just he's great, Peter. So there's people like that doing stuff. There's Fola, who's just sort of come in. She's doing this exhibition with me, and she was at Ogilvy for years, and just took early retirement, and or just got out, and so she's been an artist the last few years. There's all sorts of people there, and they're really nice people. It's you asked earlier, what do you do? Go and do something like that if you can,
Yeah.
because you meet people. If you're in a rut or you're stuck, just get out of the house, go for a walk, and do a course and something if you can. If you can get the money together, and a lot of these are quite cheap over here. Sort of do it, do a couple of hours a week because you make contacts. Even I didn't know I was going to do a group show, and I just sort of because I'm a producer, I was like, hey guys, why don't we, and they were like, yeah, yeah, let's do it. So I put it all together and all the photos and the proposal, and yeah, we'll put the application in. So we'll see. But I've also got an application in for a big piece of public art as well. It's crazy in a church. It's this basically, which I'm going to make like a meter big. It's you kind of speak into it your wishes or prayers because it's a church. So I thought, kind of work, and it's on a tomb, deconsecrated tomb. There's five of them, and they
Uh-huh.
had a film go out, and they said, "Have you got any ideas?" And I said, "Yeah." So I just did this as like a maquette, like a scaled down version. So I made this out of metal, and shaped all this, painted it red. Anyway, it's going to be a big version of this on this thing. If that goes ahead, that would be kind of cool as well. we'll have to make it. But hey, whatever, should be fun. That's what I'm doing. I think
Yeah.
is anything else? I can't remember. No.
I don't know. All right, so is Bristol City? Are you guys gonna get promoted to the Premier
Oh,
League
shut
anytime
up.
soon?
Not this year.
I don't know. I haven't looked at the championship table, so that was not out of spite or talking trash.
I can't remember now. I don't. What team's your team?
I don't really have one in England. I support Borussia Dortmund in Germany, who we have our own problems at the moment. So
We're 12th at the championship. So yeah, not going to happen. I don't follow it religiously, but I do pop my head in just because
yeah,
when you go up in the city and you go every week to watch your team, you become attached. That's why I don't have a London team because I can't really do it. It's
yeah,
once you're a fan, it's like if you're Cubs or Bears or whatever over there. You can't just move to a new city and get a new team. It's like
yeah.
you kind of stuck with it.
Well, the good news is 12th to 6th to get into the playoff is not so much. And maybe if you have a couple other teams like Southampton getting caught spying on practices, you might be able to sneak your way
Well,
in.
Spurs are supposed to be going down. I don't know what's happening at the moment,
I
but
think if they win or draw, I think they're safe. West Ham have to win and Spurs have to lose if
they'll be.
Spurs are going to go down.
They've never been in the championship. Well, not. I don't know. I mean, I kind of supported Spurs when I was a kid. I was into them, but yeah, they were always in first division or Premiership. They've never gone down, so it's going to be very strange. But
I think they'll be safe. I think they'll be
think they'll be
safe.
safe.
I don't know. I think West Ham. I don't remember who West Ham are playing, but West Ham have to win and Spurs have to lose
Okay,
for them.
yeah, the Spurs have lost like the last 4 or 5 games, I
They
think.
have, yeah. That would be so
But
wacky to see them in the championship because the huge stadium and the rest of it, like it wouldn't even
huge
fit.
stadium, and they don't get so much money. So are they going to drop their season ticket prices? That was
Yeah,
the thing. Like if you supported Fulham, it was the cheapest way to see Premiership teams. So
yeah,
actually, it was a good idea to get a season ticket for Fulham because they had to play all the other teams, so you saw everyone.
yeah,
I don't know. Interesting.
yeah, for sure. There's honestly, I've enjoyed this immensely. For me as an interviewer, it's been quite challenging because you've done so many things and been all over the place and in a good way. And so I've very much enjoyed this, but I have nowhere else where I want to take this at the moment. But other than to
Let's
say
wrap it
like
up, hey.
other than to say that we should do this again at some point and just have the conversation maybe less focused on the books and career and other things. Because I would very much enjoy that. But is there anything else that you want to make sure that people know, or anything else?
It's all good. It's all good. I hope you got enough
Yeah,
of
plenty,
me.
plenty.
Too much.
No, not enough. Not enough. We'll have to bring you back for more. But yeah, so for those listening, all the links will be in the description to the books and the Amazon Prime feature film and all the other stuff that we talked about today. Go buy a shirt, merch down there in the description somewhere. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Take care. Bye now.
Thanks for tuning in to the World XP podcast. If you want to watch another episode like this one, click there. If you want to subscribe, click there.